Hi, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy UPSC Articulate YouTube channel. So this is Nisha Nujumudeen, your educator at Unacademy, an expert in Indian economy, current affairs, and MCQs. So here we are today with the most interesting topic of discussion, that is none other than the analysis of Union Budget 2022-23. So now this is not just the highlights of the Union Budget, but rather it's a look into various perspectives, or let's say various dimensions of whether the so-called union budget which is put forward by the government is really benefiting the society, or let's say the economy in every single sector. So now in this particular session, we'll be having a look into the multiple highlights, dimensions of union budget proposals which has been put forward by the government of India. And now we'll be taking a different look of this as to whether the Union Budget 2022-23 is it big on hopes and short of ideas. So we have the pros and cons put up under one single umbrella in this particular series. So this is a marathon series, guys, which will continue for more than two hours. Okay. So yes. Hi Pavan, Danya, Soham, Devatashni, good afternoon. Yes, Vishnu, Anagha, Deepesh, good afternoon to all of you. So let's quickly have a complete breakdown of the entire union budget, guys, which will be very, very useful for the UPSC CSE examination. Not only for UPSC, be it for any competitive examinations or for anybody to get updated with regard to the union budget of 2022-23, this particular session will be highly beneficial. So to have a more look into my profile, you can just have a look into it, guys. I'm also an assistant professor at Hindustan University. I'm also an economist, Government of India, and one of the top plus educated Unacademy, handling various batch courses. You can just go through all this. Now, here we go. So now let's quickly have a look into the current affairs perspective of the highlights of union budget. At the same time, a quick look into the static or the theoretical perspective as to the different stages in which a budget is passed. So this particular session will be a 360-degree coverage of the entire budget comprised under one single umbrella. Like what are the proposals kept for different sectors with regard to common man, with regard to taxpayers, with regard to investors, with regard to business people, with regard to education, with regard to health, etc., etc. So from every single from every single sector, we'll be having a deep analysis of what are the important points to be noticed with regard to the union budget of 2022-23. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to understand, chalo, is it big on hopes and short of ideas, or the other way around? So you got to give me answer for this particular question which I've put across in this particular poster as well, guys. So we are going to have a totally different look of the union budget through this particular session, combining all the essential elements which we need to look into. So yes, are you all ready? You should be indeed, because this is a special marathon series of the analysis of the budget of our country, guys, which is very, very important, right? Yes. Yes, Vishnu, Chirag and all. Okay, people are slowly coming up, I believe. Okay. So apart from that, you can just go through every other profile, guys, with regard to the Unacademy free class and plus class. So 6 a.m. early morning, we have the current topics and news discussion which is happening on a daily basis in the same YouTube channel. And 6 p.m. we have the UPSC level MCQs for prelims 2022 with a 360-degree coverage. So what you do is you can even watch these two free classes by using the code Nisha IAS Live. Be it free class or plus class, the code is same. So just keep this in mind. Take care. And can you all see a link that is pinned up in the chat box? That is the link of my Unacademy profile. So you can follow me there for all the updates of my free classes, paid classes, and other things. Take care. So now, before starting the class, here is an amazing quote of the day for you people to begin with. So success is where preparation and opportunity meet. So yes, you're all on the right track to be a successful, efficient civil service officers, because you are in a stage where you're preparing, and that's the time where opportunity also meets you people. So here we go, my young officers, without wasting much of time. So yes, are you all ready? You should be indeed. Quickly give me a thumbs up. Let me see that. Brilliant. Yes. Come on, it should be fast. And how was the Josh? Yes, all of you in the class, how is the Josh? Perfect. Here we go. A look into the highlights and analysis of Union Budget 2022-23 from different perspectives, angles, and dimensions. Now, we all know that the Minister of Finance, currently we have Ms. Nirmala Sitaram. She is the one who presented the so-called Union Budget of 2022-23. And now this year adds more, importance to the so-called budget, because with the presentation of the current 2022 Union Budget, our country India has marked the 75 years of independence, and that is through the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. So that is another important point to be understood with regard to the presentation of the Union Budget 2022-23 by our Finance Minister. And now, apart from this particular perspective, another important thing to be understood is that the current Union Budget also lays down a proper plan that what our country India should do for the next 25 years. It's not 10 years or 20 years, rather more than 2 decades, approximately next 25 years. What is a blueprint, or let's say what is a plan that we need to really focus into? And now that particular period is called as what? The Amrit Kal or the Amrit Kal. Okay? And thus, at the same time, in this particular budget, another important point to be understood is that it has also announced some important measures for taxpayers. So now, some of the measures put across has a huge hit on the common man as well. So multiple repercussions, multiple criticism has popped up with regard to the Union Budget. But then when we really analyze Union Budget, we got to take into consideration the growth of our country, because that quantum of leap of growth is also important. But that doesn't mean that it will be at the cost of hitting on the stomach of the common man. That is also to be understood. So in two different dimensions, and then with the proper way forward, we'll be doing the analysis of this so-called Union Budget 2022-23 in this session. Clear? Perfect. So now, a look into the theoretical, or let's say the static perspective of the budget before going directly into the highlights for you to have a clear-cut understanding, or to revise the theoretical part of that as well. So now we all know that the budget and the constitutional provisions, as per Article 112 of our Indian Constitution only, the Union Budget is put forward, and that's why the Union Budget of our country is referred to as what? The AFS, the Annual Financial Statement, because budget is nothing but a kind of statement which consists of what? All the estimated, or let's say the calculated revenue or receipts that a country India is supposed to receive. And with that revenue or receipts, what are the expenditure or the spending activity the government has to do for one particular financial year. And the financial year begins when, guys? From 1st April of the current year, and it ends on 31st March of the following year. That's how we kind of do the analysis, right? So this is how the so-called concept annual financial statement, or what we commonly called as the Union Budget, is all about. Now, to put in short, sweet and simple terms, I can tell you that overall the budget consists of so many perspectives. That is, what are the estimates of revenue and capital receipts. At the same time, what are the ways and means in which you can increase or raise the revenue, which talks about taxation, which talks about, the direct and indirect taxes. And now, what are the estimates of expenditure for various social welfare programs, for various developmental programs, for various, other activities, economic and social indicator activities? What is the expenditure the government has to, take forward? So all these things are coming under the budget. And thus, the details of the actual income, that is the receipts, and the expenditure of the closing financial years, and the various reasons with regard to the deficit, the lack of resource or the revenue, or the extra, the surplus, all these things are contained in the budget. And even the economic and the financial policies for the coming year is also contained where, guys, is also taken into consideration while the budget is being presented or put forward. That is, what are the taxation proposals that is we put forward? What are the prospects of revenue that a country India can earn? And with regard to that, what should be the spending or the expenditure program? And also, what should be the expenditure that the government has to keep in mind when they're introducing a new project, proposal, schemes for the welfare of the economy or the society. So all these things actually emerge from where? The budget. So it's very, very important that budget analysis, or let's say preparation and execution, has to be done in a very, very crystal clear and minute manner. Otherwise, the entire planning for the growth and development of our country India can be collapsed. That's why every now and then they say that budget is not a joke. It is something that is hitting harder on the life of the people, because that is how the things takes place. It's an entire planning for our country India, guys, for 1 year, right? In various sectors. And thus, if you see in the parliament, the budget is not presented just like that by the finance minister. Some economists will come and prepare some documents. No, that's not the way. It goes through stages. Which are those stages? One is in the beginning of February. We all know that they'll start presenting the budget, right? The finance minister will present the budget. Then there'll be general discussion among the members of the cabinet or parliament. Then there'll be very further scrutiny by departmental committees. Then there'll be voting on demand for grants. then they have to get the appropriation bill passed and followed by passing of finance bill. So all these are theoretical things, just to brush up your knowledge. I'm just telling you. But anyways, to put in short, sweet and simple terms, I can tell you that when the finance bill, that is the bill, finance bill is nothing but it's a bill which talks about the taxation proposals. That is whether you should increase a tax, decrease a tax, modify the existing tax, or abolish one particular tax, or some sort of amendments or changes have to be made. All these detailed discussions happens in the finance bill. So now when the finance bill is passed only, we can say that chalo, the budget is passed. So out of every 6 stages in which the budget is undergoing in the parliament, the last stage called as passing of finance bill is more important, and the president has to give an accent to that as well. Okay, so the meaning of finance bill is nothing but it deals with what? The proposals with regard to taxation perspective. When that is agreed and passed, come on, the budget is passed. Clear? So now the current budget is also, something that has undergone all these stuff. And now which ministry is responsible? Of course, it deals with the finance perspective, revenue perspective. So now the budget division comes under the Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance, because they are the nodal, or let's say the most important body representing or let's say responsible for preparing the union budget. That is why Nirmala Sitaraman in the current year also has released the budget, right? And when was the very first budget of our country, India, presented, guys? It was presented soon after independence in the year 1947. So the very first budget of our country, India, that is independent India, was presented in the year 1947. So these are the background, or let's say the theoretical information that one should know whenever you're studying with regard to the analysis or the highlights of budget. Clear? Now, we are moving to the most important, discussion of the day, because that is something which talks about the analysis, or let's say the highlights. Having understood the background, nature of the budget and its proceedings, it's very important to know that currently, as far as 2022-23 is concerned, what are the highlights or the analysis of the budget, of the union budget put forward by the government of India. So yes, let's quickly have a look into what are the key highlights of this current budget, guys. Point number 1, with regard to growth rate. What do you think that our country, India, is really doing great with regard to growth perspective? Yes, with regard to the statistical data that we have, with regard to the GDP, gross domestic product data we have, I repeat, data we have, yes, we are doing great. But that's again jotted out in the pen and paper. What about the realistic perspective? A closer look into the realistic perspective makes you think. That is a reality, hai na? Yes? Yes, that's a reality. There is no doubt in that. So now, with regard to the growth rate, the key highlights put forward in the current budget is that it is said that the economic growth of our country, India, for the period 2021-22, it was estimated to be at the rate of 9.2% of GDP. Come on, that is too high, guys. I can tell you that this particular figure, it is the highest among all large economies. And you need to understand that India is a developing economy. We are still not developed, but we are one of the incredible economies with one of the biggest democracies, I can tell you. No doubt in that. So now, this 9.2% of GDP, taking into consideration the pandemic scenarios and conditions, is a little high. Don't you think so? But that's what the highlights of budget tells us. It is estimated to be at this particular ratio. There is something to be thought about. So now, keep this point in mind, because in the criticism, this will enable you to, put forward your points in a much better manner. The next important point with regard to growth rate, which is a highlight of budget, is with regard to fiscal deficit. So what is fiscal deficit? Deficit means gap. So fiscal has something to do with the taxation perspective. That is, fiscal deficit is a concept which describes that when the public revenue is falling short of public expenditure, which means that, let's say, for example, the revenue that the government gets via taxation, be it direct tax, indirect tax, or even non-tax sources, it is 100 crore. For example, take care. Now, the expenditure they have to spend, it is leading around, let's say, another 200 crore. So now the revenue is only 100 crore, but then if you see the expenditure, that's not the way. It is coming up to 200 crore. So what do? There is a gap of 100 crore. So what will the government do? They resort to borrowing, either within the country or outside the country from foreign sources or from international institutions like IMF, International Monetary Fund, or World Bank, because basically from there only we keep on getting money, right? Or we'll resort to even off-budget borrowing and all. What is off-budget borrowing? Off-budget borrowing is another concept in economics where the government, they will not borrow directly, because fiscal deficit is a limit. After, let's say, for example, the fiscal deficit is 4%. Okay, it was actually 3%, guys, previously. Because of this pandemic, the government increased to 4%. That is the need for borrowing more and more money. There is a limit or a ceiling for that. But now in reality, I can tell you that all these 3-4% doesn't work out in a better way. The government has to keep on borrowing because of the increase in the populations and also the increase in the demand for revenue to meet all the expenditure activities. They cannot say they cannot do this because they don't have money, right? So now what the government does is to show in the records as to, okay, we are sticking on to the fiscal deficit. There is something called as off-budget borrowing. What is that? That is, they will employ a third party to borrow money on behalf of the government, and the government will not be directly liable to pay the money. But then that money which the third party is getting, it could be a stakeholder, it could be an MNC, it could be anybody out there. Okay. In the context of PPP, public-private partnership, now they will get the money and give it to government. So now directly government is not responsible, but then they're getting the money and they're able to carry forward the activities. That's called as off-budget borrowing. That's also another kallatram done because they cannot overcome the, fiscal deficit as per the papers. You understand? So now there are multiple ways in which the government tries to get revenue or let's say money to carry forward the expenditure activities. So now, currently if you see the revised fiscal deficit from 3% it became 4 and currently they say it is 6.9% of GDP. It is too high as against the 6.8 projected in the budget calculations estimates. So they themselves agreed that 3 will not work. So they went to 4 and now it has come up to 6. Double and triple, I can tell you. Because the expenditure in various perspectives, especially in the health sector, taking into consideration the pandemic scenario, it has aggravated even more. So now, this is a condition of fiscal deficit. And now let me tell you something. Another point is that even the 6.9%, which the budget is highlighting, okay, as an economist, I would say that this is also just the paper figures. It will definitely be even 10%, no doubt in that. And this extra 4% which is coming up, they will do it via the off-budget. Yes, Deepesh, what is it? It is an off-record borrowing as well. Yeah, it's an off-record, no doubt in that. See, I will never say it's a corruption or fraud or anything as such. The government is doing it for our welfare again, for the welfare of the people or the economy. It's kind of off-budget borrowing, which is actually happening. I have taught you this in various other classes as well. Yes, Soham, it's an indirect borrowing through third party. That is the way they can manage the fiscal deficit. When the budget tells that, okay, the ceiling on the limit is 1%, you cannot exceed it. So what do? The demand is there. The expenditure has to be conducted. You cannot run away from that. The government cannot run away from that. So they do all these things. It's a reality. You got it? So thus, the revised fiscal deficit is projected at the rate of 6.9% of your gross domestic product. So with regard to the growth perspective, this is the key highlights of what the budget. So though they show this also, let's have a look into the other perspective or analysis of that. We can find out multiple points popping up, which makes you understand whether this budget is too big of hopes and short of ideas. The question what I asked you initially, you should be able to answer them. So make a note of all these things. Take care. And thus, if you see the fiscal deficit again for the year 2020-23, okay, again, they have been estimated at the rate of 6.4%. And they say it is consistent. Why? Because it is in lieu with the broad path of fiscal consolidation, which is announced in the year. So then they'll be able to reach a fiscal deficit level below 4.5%. They're saying that now they will increase the fiscal deficit to 6.4 because the need or let's say the requirement or necessity of the country is like that with regard to income because revenue is not coming up. But the expenditure has to be maintained. So they say if you do like this, automatically when the year 2025-26 is coming, they'll be able to decrease it or let's say keep it below 4.5%, which is feasible. This is a kind of justification given with regard to growth rate of what? Of the budget 2022. So the government is very smart. They are giving a future hope. What if it is not working? Are the expenses going on like this, guys? That time will they come and say that, okay, we will again try to keep it below 4% by the year 2030? So this is again a question to be answered by the government. Don't you think so? Yes, it is. So all these kind of points do come up to your brains like that. Okay. Now, the next important highlight of the budget 2022 is Amrit Kal. So the next 25 years, what is a blueprint or plan for the growth and development of a country? India is also put forward in the current budget, they are saying, through the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav or let's say the Amrit Kal perspective. So thus I can tell you that yes, our country India, we have entered into what? The Amrit Kal. The 25-year-long lead up to India at 100. And now, this Amrit Kal has a lot more to look into, guys. That is during this Amrit Kal. The government is very particular that they are aiming to attain few of the following objectives of vision. What are they? Point number 1, they're saying that during this 25-year-long period, it's like a blueprint. Okay, this is the vision 2030, vision 2040, vision 2050 and all you say, na? Same thing. Lot of big hopes they are giving. Chalo, we'll do that, a quantum of leap of growth will come. But you have to wait and see. All these things we've heard before also. But how far you're able to implement them is something that matters a lot. That is what is very important in the table of discussion, rather than what you present on the paper. See, this is like we're not criticizing government. There are good things, there are bad things. See, everything has a positive and a negative side. Just like a coin having a head and a tail, or a lighter and a darker side. So does budget as well. But then when you give a hope, when you give a kind of statement, make sure that in the near future, you're at least able to do half of it, if not complete also. So now, 25 years, yeah, come on, that is something to be considered to greater extent. But anyways, if you see, one of the most important objectives in this long 25-year plan put forward by the government of India with regard to a country India entering Amrit Kal is complementing the macroeconomic level growth focus. If you really want to complement the macro, or let's say, macro is what? Macroeconomics is nothing but it talks about the functioning of the whole economy. Am I right? Yes, it do talks about the functioning of the whole economy, guys. So now, taking into consideration that particular perspective, taking into consideration that particular perspective, what do? You need to develop things. Now, if you want to have macroeconomic development, do you really think that macro development can come just like that? You need to have a look into the micro perspective as well. That is, it's not about the centralization. It is about the decentralization aspects that is more important. Now, that is the reason why even the Planning Commission, which put forward the 5-year plans for around 50 to 60 years, was replaced with Niti Aayog, which is an independent think tank of Government of India. Why? Because of the factor called as decentralization to be highlighted. So now the current budget is also focusing on that. They are focusing on the decentralized perspective and let's say an all-inclusive welfare focus. Yes, Danya? Yeah, obviously. So that is one of the vision of Amrit Kal, or let's say the 25-year-long plan for the government of India, where a country can really become developed is like, when we have to complement macroeconomic level of growth, you need to focus where? In the microeconomic level, because that is going to give an inclusive, an all-inclusive welfare focus, focusing on the context called as decentralization. So that is something which is valid and logical. So I appreciate this. Come on, because micro units only make up macro units. It shouldn't be a top-down approach. Rather, it should be a bottom-up approach. I repeat, a bottom-up approach. That is the way it should be. And that is rightly pointed out in one of the visions of Amrit Kal, of the 25-year-long, lead up of our country, India at 100. No doubt in that. So this is kind of, agreeable. But provided how far we are able to do that. But this is a good thing. Next is promoting digital economy. Yeah, well and good. That another important vision of Amrit Kal of the 25-year plan for Government of India, which was highly projected in the budget, was this. We know that today digitalization that is on the run. Since 2015, the government is pushing for that. And this pandemic has actually led, or let's say it has supported to more of digital economy, right from the vendors to the top officials. Of course, the top people are also doing that. But then more and more online, or let's say digital economy is transferring the entire country into what? The digitalization perspective, which is indeed the need of the hour, I can tell you. No doubt in that. For that, literacy, digital awareness, digital literacy, all these things also have to improve. So the transparency, the structure perspective, or the strategic perspective, all these things are coming into account. You got it? So now the next important thing is, yes, Danya, what is it? Bottom-up approach. See, Danya, bottom-up approach is nothing but from the micro, you'll go to the macro level. From the panchayats to the districts to the state to the central level. That's what you say bottom-up approach. It has an in-depth understanding right from the grassroots level to the top level. So every single stage has been considered. It's not like one central plan that you put forward. That is in lieu with the decentralization concept for an all-inclusive welfare focus or approach for our country, India. Clear? Is it clear, Danya? Yes, Soham, digitalization is unavoidable at present. Yeah, very true, very true. See, these kind of things are quite logical and these kind of things are quite, practical as well. There is no doubt in that. So now, the next important thing is that, so when they're focusing on promoting digital economy, okay, and the fintech, that is financial technological perspective, they also want to make sure that they are enabling development, which is highly technological perspective. And they're also focusing on energy transition. Now, this energy transition is what you know in the context of renewable source of energy. I repeat, renewable source of energy. Okay. It is said that by the year 50, our country, India's 50% of energy requirement has to be met out from where? from the renewable sources like your solar, your wind, your thermal and all. And another joke of the day is things that have become more costly after the presentation of union budget. According to budget is all these solar, the renewable source and all has become more costly. Then how can you even think of doing that? See, all these kind of things are really again hitting the brains of common men out there, or common man out, or the layman out there. How is this possible? And also climate action. This is in the context of environment. We know that climate change, it is one of the very big, issue. It's in fact a burning issue, guys, a sensitive issue, not only affecting our country, India, but the entire globe. Because climate has no boundaries, so does the environment. So now promoting all these things by taking proper actions, plans, etc., fatafat, is also one of the visions of Amrit Kal. Clear? The 25-year plan for our country, India's development. Next is encouraging triple P concept. What is that? Public-private partnership concept. So when you rely or depend on the virtuous cycle starting from private investment with public capital investment, automatically what happens? You are actually enabling, or let's say leading to a lot of crowding out effect called as crowd in private investment. So these days, including your railways. Okay, for example, I'm giving you including railways. They come under the concept of what? They come under the concept of triple P, public-private partnership program. Am I right? Where 49% share will remain with the government and 51% of share will remain, 49% share will remain with the private and 51% share will remain with the public. That's the so-called triple P concept. Now, crowding out effect is something that is not new. It is already there. The whole point is in one of the visions of the Amrit Kal, which is put forward in the budget, they say, chalo, let's focus more on the triple P concept. Because the government is not having proper funding, so let's depend on the private investment. That is encouraging the private sectors also to grow up. At the same time, the public capital investment is also pushed harder. And we are able to, grow to a greater extent. You got the point? So that is also another important point to be understood. Clear? So I can see a question from Shawat saying, what is fintech? See, fintech is nothing but, have you not heard about fintech company, financial technological company? That is the computer programs and other technology used to support, or let's say enable some banking, financial service and all. This fintech is one of the fastest growing areas for all the venture capitalists. So fintech is basically based on that. Let's say, for example, they to understand in a better manner, fintech is something like your mobile banking, your mobile payments, your insurance, your trading. When you involve technology for the financial transactions, that's called as fintech in simple terms. Did you understand? Yes, Shawat Sheikh. Perfect. Yes, Vishnu. Yeah, true. Technology related to finance. What he said is true. Very good. Is it clear, all of you? Perfect. So now, let's quickly have a look into the so-called 25-year, as I told you, the 25-year lead growth or plan perspective, the blueprint of Amrit Kal. There are 4 priorities, guys, with regard to the, blueprint of Amrit Kal, which is presented in the current budget highlights of 2022 by our finance minister. One is with regard to the PM Gati Shakti, Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti program, where you will focus on the development of various sectors together. Second is inclusive development. Now, this inclusive development is not a new thing again. Even if you see Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti is a new thing also, new thing in the context of name I'm telling, but if you see inclusive development has been there since so many years. We say we need inclusive development in financial sector, in banking, in that, this, etc. So once again, they're focusing on that because that has become an important area of discussion. The next is productivity enhancement and investment, and also sunrise opportunity. See, sunrise is not the sun rising from rising, guys. It talks about the new industries that is coming up. Okay, and giving opportunities for them. So now, sunrise opportunities, energy transition, climate action. All these also another important third priority of what the Amrit Kal vision, followed by financing of investment. Here, the so-called triple P model, that is public-private partnership model do come in. So these so-called points have to be kept in mind while you talk about the budget of 2020-22. Clear? Now, out of all these, the next important point which you need to understand in the current budget highlights is they also spoke about PLI. What is that? Production linked incentive schemes. I repeat, PLI schemes. What does this PLI scheme is nothing but it is actually motivating all the startup, all the people to come up with new enterprises in different sectors, be it automobiles, be it manufacturing, be it pharmaceutical, be it technological perspective. So now, be it textile. So in different sectors, production linked incentive scheme is popping up. That is, the government will give some sort of incentive via cash format. So when they do that, automatically the startup, or let's say the people, will be encouraged to come up with new initiatives. You understand? So now, keeping that in mind, in the current budget also, the PLI, that is productivity linked incentive, under the context of production linked incentive scheme, they said that this also can solve the issue of unemployment. That is one of the biggest social issue. We all know that, because unemployment is causing what? When a person is not employed, he or she will not have a proper income. When there is no income, what happens to living standard? That deteriorates, or let's say that decreases. And then what happens? Automatically, the contribution to the country's per capita income, or GDP, that decreases, leading to lack of growth and development. So that cannot be a good indicator, right? So now, to overcome the biggest social issues, the production incentive was actually focused on the current budget as well. They said that is a good thing, guys. Let me tell you that 60 lakh new jobs to be created. Yeah, that is a brilliant thing. No doubt in that. Under what? Under the productivity linked incentive scheme. That too, not in one or two sectors, rather in 14 sectors. They said they will do that. So don't you think so? It is something to be looked upon. Yes. So the biggest social evil called as unemployment can really be looked into through this perspective, because that is only leading to the next social evils like hunger, starvation, poverty, death, etc., etc. Multiple concepts like that. Henna, because that is actually hampering the growth and development of our country. Yes, Devadarshini, what is it? Ma'am, another PPP, purchasing power parity. What is it? See, triple P is public-private partnership. Whereas the triple P, what you're asking me, is purchasing power parity. That is nothing but purchasing power parity means the capacity of person. So actually, purchasing power parity, another triple P is, it's a popular indicator, let's say a metric used by macroeconomic analysts. Okay. What they'll do is, using this, they'll start comparing the growth of the countries. Let's say India, America's growth, or India, Australia's growth, or India, Japan growth. Through a basket of goods approach, they do that. They'll actually do a comparison of different countries, currencies through a basket of goods, I can tell you. And thus, through this triple P concept, it enables the economist also to compare the economic productivity and also the living standard of people in different countries. Through this triple P concept, you'll be able to understand, okay, the living standard of our people of our country, India, is high or low compared to that of US, compared to that of Australia, or let's say Japan. You got it? This triple P is actually coming under the HDI, Human Development Index, when you study the three indicators: longevity, that is life expectancy, then literacy, education, and what? Income, which is measured in terms of PPP, purchasing power parity in US dollars. You understand? So you can actually use that. Did you understand? It's an economic theory in simple terms, an economic theory of exchange rate determination, guys. Simple as that. Perfect? I hope your doubt is cleared. Hold on for a while. Just hold on, guys. Okay. Now, the next important point which you need to understand with regard to the highlights, or let's say analysis of the budget 2020-23 is, what are the major announcements? So apart from all this, in different sectors also, yeah, good announcements were done. That is, there were two big on hopes. The hopes that was given with a quantum of leap of growth given by budget is too high. Let me tell you that. Point number one is with regard to railways. So I have not gone in detail, or let's say I have not taken 10 to 15 points of one particular sector. Rather, what is the killer point, or let's say what is that one single keyword to be memorized from different sectors only I have taken, guys, because that is what you need to know also. That is enough for your better understanding. Take care. So now talking about the other major announcements in the current budget is with regard to railway, they brought in a beautiful concept as to one station, one product concept. These days, everything with one nation, one ration card, then one nation, one, I mean, other perspectives, a lot of things like that are there. Similarly, for railways also, they said one station, one product concept will be introduced. That was basically why. Why do you think such kind of things are brought in? That is to help the local business and supply chains. So that is a valid point again. Don't you think so? So that is a valid point, to be noted. Next is Parvatamala. What is Parvatmala, guys? Oh, it's Mala means mountains in Malayalam and Tamil, Doesn't mean that it's like, some mountains you're catching up. See, this talks about this Parvatmala over here. Another announcement is with regard to the National Ropeway Development Program. And it has to be done in the context of triple P model, that is public-private partnership model. Clear? So that is another important announcement that we can actually figure out where in the budget. That's a good thing. Then the Kisan drones. We all know that drones these days are having a lot of importance, right? Because that is again in the context of technological perspective of aerospace or aeronautical perspective. That is indeed very, very important as well. No doubt in that. So now they said this Kisan drones. Now here we are not talking just about the drones, but rather Kisan. So the word Kisan signifies what? Agriculture, right? So now another important major announcement that you can find out in the current budget is with regard to the kind of more importance given to Kisan drones. And why they did that is because it is basically for the crop assessment, then digitization, having a proper, systematic record of all the land records, not in book format, but in system format, and also with regard to spraying of insecticides and nutrients with using the drones. So less of interference in the crop without spoiling its soil fertility, and also the proper strategy way of doing it. So it's kind of mechanized farming, or let's say agriculture is brought in, and this is in lieu with the development of agriculture sector, because we know that even today majority of populations depend upon what? Agriculture. But then their contribution to the growth and development of a country, India, in terms of GDP, is very, very less. It's hardly 17 to 18%, not even half of what the number of people who are dependent, right? If 50% is dependent, it should be at least 50 or more than that, or 30, 35. But then it's very, very pathetic to know that the contribution from this particular primary sector is just 17 to 18. First, clear? Yes, Vishnu, what is the concept you want me to explain? Miss, can you explain the concept? What does it mean? Which concept you mean, Vishnu? You mean Parvatmala? Quick, quick. Is it about the project you want to know? It is for tourism perspective. Okay. Which concept you're telling me? Acha, you want to know about this one station, one product concept and Parvatmala. Okay, let me tell you what that is, guys. Actually, I'll be explaining that also in the coming slides, but I'll quickly brief it out. So, Parvatmala is actually a project which is taken on a triple P mode, and it is basically for, the hill states. It's a great benefit for the hill states in the context of improving the connectivity, guys, of all the hilly states or areas. So you'll be able to promote tourism to greater extent. So now tourism means what? Better revenue. Again, better revenue means automatically contributing to what? The growth and development. And again, tourism means the people of that particular area. The connectivity also improves. So better infrastructure facilities, better job opportunities, employment opportunities, sab kuch with regard to growth and development happens. Clear? And it will be preferred as an ecologically sustainable project, guys, which is a kind of alternative to all the traditional, the conventional roads in difficult hilly areas. It's a very beautiful thing. It's just to be appreciated. Clear? Okay, what is your doubt? Another doubt, Vishnu? With regard to railways. Okay. See, railways, one station, one product. Okay, people got confused. One station means you will, have only one station, no matter whichever state you belong to. No, yes, I know. To help the local business and supply chains only with regard to railways, another announcement was made by the government. Okay? So, one station, one product as a concept. Okay? The aim is nothing but they want to promote the local product from each stop of the Indian Railways. So, let's say, for example, Indian Railways, when you travel, you have multiple stoppings. So, basically, to promote, a local product from each stop of the Indian Railways by making the railway station of that area a promotional and a sales hub of the product. That is why this has been brought in. So it is based on the idea, this concept of one station, one product. Now it is based, that itself is based on the idea of, let's say, one district, one product scheme, ODOP scheme. You can just go through that also. For that, you won't believe the railways were given how many crores, 1,37,000 crores for that. Is very good because a lot of local vendors will be benefited. And also along with the Kavachka technology, the government is to launch around 400 Vande Bharat trains also. Multiple benefits are there. There is no doubt in that. Clear? That is enough. Nothing more is required. To the point discussion, that is enough, guys. Yes, Vishnu, regional exclusive product. See, regional exclusive product is one district, one product. Here, every stop you're kind of promoting. So the local vendors, the people, the business and all, it will benefit them. You understand? So people will buy it. So you got to promote it. Normally, when you travel in a train, do you prefer buying foods from outside? Even if it is packed properly also? No. You prefer either taking your food or you are less inclined to purchase because you're not that confident with regard to the hygienity in spite of whatever promotion has been done. That has to change. You understand? That is why this is brought in. Did you understand, all of you? Now, the next important announcement is Kisan drones, followed by MSME. Come on. Micro, small, medium enterprises. We know that after agriculture, the second most sector which has a huge absorption of labor is this particular industry, where lot of entrepreneurs, lot of startup do come in. When people are not having employment, what do? They acquire the skill, or let's say they undergo the skill training program and then they come up with their own startup, or let's say they turn out to be entrepreneurs. So MSME is also very, very important. Hai na? So now Udayam, eShram, Electronic Shram, NCS, Azim portals, etc. has to be linked under the MSME perspective for things to carry forward in 2x or let's say 4x car speed perspective. Clear? That is also another important announcement. Now comes skill development. Very, very important indeed. Very, very important. Now here they are talking, or let's say the government was saying that digital or online ecosystem for skilling and livelihood called as Desh Stack e-portal. So now even via online platform, we are talking about digitization. We are talking about digital economy. So like learning of the skills also happen via that. So the Desh Stack e-portal called as digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood, they said that will be launched. Why? Why should the government even launch a digital or online portal for the skill development? Because they want to empower the citizens to skill, reskill or upskill as well. So National Skill Development Corporation of India, which is put forward in the year 2015 by the government, was also for what? Skilling, upskilling and reskilling the people. Because in a country, India, majority of people are put up in the rural area. We know that. And the rural youngsters, they are either unskilled or semi-skilled. So to skill, upskill and reskill them is very important. Here, skilling is the unskilled people, reskilling is the semi-skilled people, upskilling is the one who are highly skilled to improve their efficiency 4 times or 5 times higher than what they can do now. So now, why can't this be in the online perspective again? So there is no limit to its reach. You understand? So now skill development in the context of so-called, online training is also another important announcement in the so-called budget. So this is a welcome initiative, guys. Come on, that's a huge kudos to government. In all these initiatives, be it railways, be it Parvatmala, be it Kisan drones, be it MSME, skill development, come on. Truly acceptable, no doubt in that. But you're going to see which are the areas which is having a huge hit directly into the stomach of the common man, or let's say the layman, because that comes when the taxation comes there. So we'll move on to that as well. So along with the good side, you're going to see the bad side also. Okay. Now, with regard to education, what did they say? In short, sweet and simple manner, they said one class, one TV channel. That is a program of PME with the electronic Vidya, and they said it will be expanded to, let's say, 200 TV channel. And this is basically to embrace online education, to make it more effective, and also the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown and other perspective, it shouldn't hamper the quality of education in the schools and colleges. You understand? That is why this particular initiative is brought in. Highly acceptable. Then what about the health perspective? They even brought out an open platform for the national digital online health ecosystem as well. So now you can see most of the things with regard to railways or health or education or whatever sector, they are focusing on the online, or let's say the digital perspective, because that has become the need of the hour, the necessity or the need of the hour. Let me tell you that. That is the reason. Now, when you talk about education, yes, LM and Hadish, good afternoon to you as well. Now, when you talk about, the various perspective, it is also important to understand that the school education, the college education, it has two different notions, guys. For a school child, it is not that easy to adapt to the so-called online or digital perspective, we all know. But they are even trying to modify that as well. And also, if you see with regard to Anganwadi, before the pre-KGs, you have the Anganwadi. So now, with regard to that, another announcement was that Saksham Anganwadi, called as New Generation Anganwadis. They said not only the children, even the women are going to benefit out of it. So, lot of multiple combined, or let's say integrated benefits to women and children through various schemes put forward by the government, like Mission Shakti, Mission Vatsalya, Saksham Anganwadi, and Portion 2 with regard to nutrition perspective, by giving meals and nutritious products to the children of Anganwadi, etc., will be taken care of. It is not by giving food via the ration shops or fair shops through the PDS, that is public distribution system, that we need today. We need to make sure that we are giving nutritious food items. Otherwise, kya fayda hai yaar? It is a waste of having the products. Don't you think so? Yes, that is to be understood. You got the point. Next is PM Divine. What is PM Divine? What is a divine, guys? Chalo, this has nothing to do with your wine or let's say any other perspective. It is nothing but it's a new scheme. Another announcement was that the government said that with regard to Northeastern region, there is exclusively a ministry for the Northeastern development as well. And we know that the Northeastern part, be it Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Nagaland, Arunachal, etc., etc., they are a hub of development with regard to organic farming, agriculture, and all. And they are blessed with so much of resources that developing the northeastern part of our country, India, can greatly contribute to the growth and development. So that is why a lot of focus is given. If a project or let's say a scheme is put forward, the government makes sure that if it is a centrally sponsored scheme means what? Half the funding will be done by the central government, remaining half by the state government. But in the context of northeastern region and the Himalayan or the hilly states, 90% funding will be done by the central government. Only 10% of funding of that particular project will be given by the concerned state governments in the context of northeast states and all, right? Because they want to promote it. So now, keeping in mind this particular background data or understanding, PM Divine is nothing but it's a new scheme of the Pradhan Mantri Development Initiative for the northeastern region. And that was launched. Why? Because they want to fund the infrastructure and social development projects exclusively in the north part of our country, the northeast part of our country, India. Both economic and the social indicators has to go forward. For that, funding is very, very important. So it's a PM development initiative for the northeastern region. That's a good idea. Believe me, highly appreciable. Next is Vibrant Village Program. That is also brought in. We know that, see, model village, or let's say, without urbanization, transforming the rural India into a much, much developed one with various village programs. Village model is indeed another important thing to be considered. So now, vibrant village program is something that was again stressed out in the current budget of 2022. They said that this vibrant village program for the development of broader villages with a sparse population, with the limited connectivity and infrastructure on the northern border will be taken into consideration, where connectivity, infrastructure of roads, rails, and other industrial development will literally be done there in the village itself. So slowly, this village will become what? A model or a modernized village. That is the whole idea there. See, all these are welcome objective. But my question is, chalo, with better connectivity, with better internet facilities, all these things are there. But when are we going to achieve it? Are we achieving in the next 2 years? Or 5 years? 10 years? Or 25 years? Or when we reach that time, like how we said Vision 2030, or sorry, Vision 2020, we'll change it to 2040 and 50. That is to be understood. That is the place where people question. That is the place where people really, tend to think why this is happening. This cannot be the case, right? That is the whole point here. Next is sunrise opportunity. So this is basically for the, new technological perspective that has been brought in. Let me tell you that. And now, as far as this particular perspective is concerned, okay, as far as this particular perspective is, concerned, it is said that the government contribution to be provided for the effective R&D, research and development, and all the sunrise opportunities, like bringing new industries, or let's say the startup with regard to the advancement in technology, like AI, artificial intelligence, then your geospatial systems and drones, your semiconductor and ecosystem, the space economy, genomics and pharmaceuticals, green energy, clean mobility, etc., has to be promoted, because these sunrise opportunity is the next generation need, guys. No doubt in that. And that is what we have to focus on. And with regard to GIFT IFSC is also another important, point to be noted. What is GIFT, by the way? What is GIFT IFSC, guys? GIFT means not a normal wala gift. What is GIFT? What is GIFT? IFSC, GIFT. IFSC is International Financial Service Center. What is GIFT actually? People are thinking. Huh? Is it so? What is GIFT here? Gujarat International Finance Tech City. Am I right? Is it that or something else? Use your brains. What is GIFT City is my question. People are thinking, yeah, it is Gujarat International Finance Tech City. So it is under construction, guys, and this will pop up in the Gandhinagar of Gujarat. So they want to make sure that they are currently being this particular gift city is being constructed in the state of Gujarat, and they'll promote it in such a way. So basically, under this the budget, under the budget, they said that let's promote more of smart city missions using the concept of gift and stuffs like that. So now, if you want to transform a state, or let's say one part of the state in the gift city, then the plan is, let's say it should have around more than 350 hectares or approximately 886 acres of land here, to have 110 buildings of so and so criteria as a built up area to go for it. And currently they have selected the state of Gujarat for that, with proper electricity, telecommunication perspective, pipe, gas, solid waste management, etc., etc., etc. Clear? So now in this particular context, they said the budget also focused. Yes, LM, as you said, it is Gujarat only. So now, if you see, based on the GIFT IFSC, they said the world-class foreign universities and institutions that should be allowed in the GIFT city, which means Gujarat will have an access to that. And at the same time, an arbitration center of international level that will also be set up for what? The timely settlement of all the disputes under international jurisprudence. These are all good things, no doubt in that. This is kind of improving, or let's say, it's kind of having a better exposure for our country, India as a whole. And the next important major announcement was with regard to digital rupee. So now we have Phone Pay, we have Google Pay, we have Paytm, we have QR code scanning of making payment and all. But digital wallets by RBI is something which will be introduced, and that will be among you and me. That is accessible by the common men like you and me. So now digital rupee introduction by the Central Bank of a country, RBI, will be starting from the year 2022-23. That will be common among all the people. That's again another important good announcement initiative, I can tell you, because digital awareness, technological advancements, people's focus on that, all these things increase. Yes, so have crypto. See, with regard to crypto, we all know the cryptocurrency, which is nothing but the most famous common cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. Since 2008 it is popular, right? Now the private cryptocurrencies that the government wants, and we have to ban it, and RBI has to form a committee, or let's say the RBI has to look into the existing cryptocurrencies like that. But today, what is the budget saying? They are looking closely into the cryptocurrencies. They're encouraging it because they also understood that money flows in a different way. So we'll discuss about all those things in the coming slides as well. Anyways, the next one. Having understood all these important, highlights, or let's say announcements in various sectors in a short, crisp, and to the point manner with a 360-degree coverage, let's move on to the top economic indicator. So I have divided this into various dimensions. Take care. Now, in the Union Budget of 2022-23, what are the top economic indicators, highlights, or analysis? What do you really think? Is it a big hope? Is it giving a big hope of all these things? Or do you feel this big hope is actually short of ideas to implement it properly? So all these kind of questions do pop up in your brains. Am I right? Yes, it do. So let's quickly have a look into that as well. Okay. Point number one, with regard to deficit and growth estimates, what actually we saw in the initial highlights. Okay. Now the current estimate is at 6.4%, and they are saying that by the year 2025-26, they will reduce, or let's say they'll try to keep it down by 4.5%, just to be questioned. You can connect the off-budget borrowing and other points that I've told you. And growth estimates also 9.2%. And by the year 23, they say 8 to 8.5% of projected GDP will happen. Do you really think this will happen, guys? We have to wait and see. Now, what about the capital expenditure and other perspective, guys? With regard to economic indicators, TCAM, they said that the government in the budget, they announced that the outlay or the expenditure with regard to capital perspective, it has been stepped up sharply by 35.5% from 5.54 lakh crore. in the current year to 7.50 lakh crore for the year 2022-23. You can see a sharp rise in the capital expenditure. Why? Because see, as I told you, the demand for the economy, sustaining the economy is indeed very, very important. That is why you can see such kind of spark or let's say the spur rise as a whole. What about repo rate? Repo rate is actually one of the quantitative instruments of monetary policy credit control. The rate at which commercial banks can borrow from RBI. You know what do they do? Even if you see the bi-monthly reports of monetary policy put forward by RBI every now and then, even in the bi-monthly report, it is said that since some quarters, okay, after this pandemic, especially after March 2020, all these rates, be it inflation, be it repo rate, be it other economic indicators, they have been unchanged or constant. And they are embracing something called as accommodative stance. Accommodative stance. Clear? So all these kind of things are to be taken into consideration with regard to that. Clear? And what is accommodative stance? It is a way in which you can actually inject more money supply into the economy because of the lack of money supply that we have. That is why if you see the repo rate was kept unchanged at 4% since May 2020 because in March your so-called pandemic started. So from there on in every quarter if you see the bi-monthly report, the repo rate is the same. Yes, well, Deepesh, what is reverse repo? See, reverse repo is the opposite of repo rate. The rate at which the RBI will borrow from commercial bank is called as reverse repo rate. Whereas repo rate is the rate at which commercial banks will borrow from RBI. You got it? So now, with regard to the economic indicators, if you see in the budget what the government said is like, they will still continue with the so-called accommodative monetary policy stance. Now, this is a very, very contradicting point. You know why? Let me tell you. They say that they want to increase revenue because the expenditure is too much. And now, very clearly through this economic indicator of repo rate, they're still saying that they're going to keep it unchanged only at the rate of 4%. That is because they have to inject more money supply into the economy and they'll follow the policy called as accommodative stance. What is that? They will find ways and means in which money supply will be brought into the economy. Simple as that. For that, if you see cash reserve ratio, CRR, then SLR, statutory liquidity ratio, then OMO, open market operations, your bank rate, all these things are various quantitative instruments of monetary policy or let's say tools used by RBI to increase or decrease inflation in the economy. But that was not helping out in the context of what? This pandemic. So now, compared to the conventional or the traditional instruments of monetary policy, some unconventional or let's say non-traditional monetary policy instruments was brought in. What are the unconventional monetary policy instruments? Helicopter money. So people will think that kya hai, from helicopter money is falling down. Yes, something like that. Helicopter money. Then QE, quantitative easing. Then LTRO, long-term repo operations. Also, you have TLTRO, targeted long-term repo operations. Now, what are these? These are actually policies or let's say tools adopted by the government, that is, sorry, RBI, to inject money supply into the economy. They'll make sure that there is money supply flowing without taking it back from the economy because that is what we need in the current scenario owing to the COVID-19 pandemic and the repercussions which the entire economy has been facing. Clear? Yes, Deepesh, what is it? Most confusing topic since years. I hope your confusion is over in just 2 lines. Repo rate, reverse repo rate. That should be fine. Okay. What is it? Between are we going to have any kind of current affair MCQ compilation today as well? Our carnival. I don't think we can have it today because we started off at 12 with the budget, so it will go for another 2 to 3 hours. So we may not. We'll see. I'll see you all tomorrow for the 6 p.m. class. Do not worry. Anyways, now the next important top economic indicator highlights of the budget 2022 is regard to inflation. Again, do you think inflation has shown a huge drive? Of course, since this pandemic situation, what is the targeted inflation rate, guys? There is something called as inflation targeting. That is in the year 2016. Okay, the RBI said that we have to target inflation at the rate of 4% with a plus or minus band of 2%, which means 2, 4, 6. I'll tell you what that is. 4 is the ideal rate of maintaining inflation. You can increase inflation up to 6%, but not beyond that, which is not advisable. And you can decrease inflation up to 2%, not below that. And the ideal is 4%. But in the pandemic situation, what happened? We could see inflation, or let's say the price level rising over and above the prescribed limit as well of 6%. You could see 6.5, 7.8 also in the months of September, August, September and all of 2020 and all, right? That was totally over and above what we could do. So now, taking into consideration all these things, currently in the budget, they said that the CPI, previously WPI, that is wholesale price index, was used as a metric to calculate inflation. But today, taking into consideration the changes put forward by RBI, since 2015 or 16, we have CPI, Consumer Price Index, which is the nominal anchor, or let's say that is used to calculate inflation, a metric that has been analyzed, because it reflects what the real living standard. That is the reason for that. Now, in this inflation, they said for the, if you see, the consumer price index averaged at 5.2%. It is within 6 only, but it is over and above the ideal number of 4%. Okay, for the months of April to December 2021. And if you see, that was driven primarily by what? Food inflation and high fuel price, which should not happen. I repeat, that shouldn't happen. Now, when there is a food inflation and the price of food items, the essential food items, vegetable, rice, wheat is increasing, who has been hit badly? The common man, especially the poor people. And now high fuel price, that is more than 100 rupees you have to pay for 1 liter of petrol. What happens to the middle class people? Again, that is hitting them harder. And even today it is continuing like that. Per liter of petrol is costing more than 100 across every state of our country, India, right? So now this is actually hitting harder. This has to change. So what is the government doing on the current budget for that? What are they doing? That is a big question mark to be understood. So that is also something which they said in the, see, they are very vocal in saying about the inflation perspective, the government, but they say that, but then they have to make sure that food inflation and let's say high fuel price, that cannot go hand in hand, because that is actually hampering the growth and development of the people to a greater extent. Don't you think so? Yes, it is. Without doubt it is. This has to change and this has to be modified to a greater extent. Let me tell you that. Now, FDI, foreign direct investments. In the context of the top economic indicators of the budget, of course, we have been doing great with regard to FDI. In spite of the pandemic conditions also, with regard to the foreign investments that we used to receive from the other countries was pretty much high. For the past 5 years, if you see, yeah, that was pretty good. And even in this pandemic situation, we were never low or down. I can tell you that for our country, India, the sectors like IT, information technology and software, which comes under the third sector of the economy, that is tertiary or service sector, bagged the 100% hike in FDI. And that is not going to come down. And now in the coming year also, the government says that FDI should be the highest, because then only you can think of what? Having more and more MNCs, multinational corporations coming up, and the employment and the other activities of with regard to investments can go high in the economy. And with regard to mercantile export, if you see, that showed an expansion by 49.7%, guys, exceeding the pre-pandemic level. So that all had a great impact. We can never see the top economic indicators as per the figure showed a great impact. Okay. Now, the next important heading which you need to really understand in the budget of 2022-23 is what are the important or the significant announcements under different sectors. Because some of the announcements may benefit some sector, some may not benefit some sector when you really analyze them in depth with regard to the people or the laborers or let's say the common man out there. So let's quickly have a look into it. But mostly all of the announcements are something that is actually benefiting. I can never say it is not benefiting. It is. So let's quickly have a look into the different announcements or let's say the significant important announcements in different sectors in the so-called budget of our country. Clear? Here we go. If you see the current budget, ministry-wise allocation, I have given you data. If you every single ministry, if you see allocation of amount is also very important. For that, revenue is required. If you see defense is the highest, always defense with regard to national security. No compromise in that. They keep on spending over and above the average value also. Otherwise, you cannot even think of becoming free or independent. That is there. The threat of security, national security is always important. So the government spends like anything. And that is acceptable also. Defense is always having the highest number of budget allocation, highest number of budget allocation every year. It is around 5.2K. I'm talking the crores perspective. Okay, the 2K is not 2,000 in the crore perspective. Then consumer affairs, food and public distribution is the second rank, number 2. followed by road transport for infrastructure, then home affairs, railways, rural, agriculture, chemical and fertilizers, communication. Now, in that, did you see something? Agriculture has to be given more important. They are taking into consideration defense, then consumer affairs, okay, and food and public distribution again in the context of agriculture is coming, but then exclusively with regard to the farmer's perspective, they made sure that the kind of allocation they give is not up to mark. But anyway, this is how the ministry wise allocation in rupees for the budget for the current year is put forward, because the government will also have their own notion of doing things, right? Now, let me quickly take you to the important announcements under different sectors. I told you that in the Amrit Kal, which is a 25-year long plan put forward with the government of India, the blueprint to improve our country, India, taking into consideration the announcement of budget, which is in lieu with the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, celebrating 75 years of independence, Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti is one of the important announcements coming under the infrastructure sector. And you know, they are this particular national master plan, PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, it is at a cost of 20,000 crore. At the same time, another important infrastructure development is with regard to 5G spectrum. So the 5G spectrum auction is also to be conducted in the current year, 2022, for better improvement. And at the same time, they said that the production linked incentive scheme, which we saw, that will also be happening. And they also said they'll award contracts to lay optical fiber in rural areas. And that has to be completed by the year 2025. That is having a proper network connectivity. So optical fiber is better than the copper cable out there. So that has a better fast internet connectivity as a whole. Clear? And also a lot of funds, around 195 billion rupees will be allocated for the PLI, production linked incentive scheme and all. Because that is again very important for manufacturing the solar equipments also, which is in lieu with the renewable source of energy. So with regard to the economic and social infrastructure development, these are the key highlights and allocations they did. And this is good. I'll never see it as a bad thing, because these are indeed the most important factors to be considered. What about education? They said, taking into consideration the pandemic and the online dependence too much on the online, or let's say digital perspective, digital university will be established. And how can you establish a digital university? That will be based on something called as a networked hub model. Your hub and spoke model, which I've studied in different schemes, the same thing will happen here as well. In the context of online, or let's say digital university, yes, it will be established based on what? A networked hub model. So again, the one class, one TV channel, you will be expanding them from 12 to 200 TV channels. Why? Because through this, you are able to reach out nook and corner in the context of inclusivity. Because you're able to provide supplementary education in all the regional languages. There is no limit that it can happen only in this particular language. So that is kind of penetrating in depth. That's a good initiative. What about health? Of course, as I told you, national digital health ecosystem that will be rolled out, and even via online, national tele-mental health program will be set up. Because these days, it's not just about the physical illness you have. Your emotional, your mental balance is also very, very important. So focusing on the mental health is also important, guys. So that will be done. And I can tell you 23 telephonic mental health centers of excellence will be put up. And lot of benefits women and children with regard to Mission Shakti, Mission Vansalya, Poshan Abhiyan, Saksh Manganwadi, etc., will be given as what the government is saying. Now, moving on to agriculture, which is very, very important. You know, we know that Kisan drones will be put up. Now, apart from that, the government also said that in the budget, they said that domestic scheme will be introduced. Why? Because they want to reduce the import of oil seeds. If you see, pulses, oil seeds and all are very, very important. The more you import, the more amount you have to pay for it. So now, basically to reduce that, again in agriculture, they said, okay, this particular announcement will be made. Now, you know, the whole point is what, you know, guys, these are all the announcements. These are all the announcements done by them. But how far they're going to implement it now? That is another question which we'll be discussing in the coming slides. That is what I'm telling you. Are the government too big? Are the government's budget, what they've announced, is it too big on hopes and short of ideas? You talk about reducing the oil seed import. For that, you should have a better production here. Have a domestic scheme and make sure that the farmers are getting better loans, or let's say access to a financial perspective as well to cultivate it more. That has to be taken care now. Simply for the sake of saying, if you say that doesn't make a sense. Yes, Tejas, what is it? Digital university will be like Unacademy. We can study from any university from anywhere. See, Unacademy is not a digital university. It's a digital or online platform. Yeah, but see, from anywhere across the country or the world, with the proper infrastructure facilities, with the proper accessibility, you're able to reach an academy, right? And I'm able to teach you as well. I think in this class, I will be seeing students from different parts of the country, different states, different places. But still, I'm able to effectively reach to all of you, whether you are in urban India or rural India, through this digital perspective. It makes a lot of sense. So with proper, technological advancements necessary for the digital transformation, this has to be done. That is what they say in the educational perspective. It will make a lot of sense. Because today that is what you require. You cannot keep sticking on to the conventional methods and saying, okay, we'll do that, we'll do this. Bullshit. It doesn't make a sense at all. It doesn't make a sense at all. Let me tell you that. Anyways, back to the topic of discussion. The next announcement, what they said is chemical-free national farming to be promoted across the country. What is this they're talking about? I have taught you something called as zero-based national budgeting. You remember? Zero-based national budget ka farming. They will not use any chemicals, rather they'll use all the natural, waste of like cow dung and stuff to make sure that the farming is done organically. That is why they are focusing on the northeastern, states of our country, because they are very much good for that. You got the point. So all these things they're saying that will be promoted. And they say that 2022, that is the current year, it will be a year of millet. That is, there will be a support for post-harvest value addition for millet products and all. But you have to wait and see whether it will be a year of millet or year of something else. All these announcements, but how far the announcements are converted to practice is something which we need to understand. Otherwise, kya baat hai? Kya fayda hai yaar? That is something to be noted. Now, defense. Of course, always defense is given a huge priority. And it is said that in the announcement, the current budget will give a push to self-reliance. I repeat, self-reliance in defense production. And that is a part of the self-reliant India mission. That is Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Because we have to stop depending on other countries of the import, and rather we will have a very indigenous defense development with the help of DRDO, Defense Research Development Organization. And I can even tell you that the 68% capital procurement or collection of budget in the sector was even earmarked for domestic procurement. So now, defense is only one particular sector where privatization is not permitted. But the government is saying that currently in the budget, they are saying they'll encourage private industry to take up the design and development of military platforms and equipment. Now, you can highly criticize this point. So don't you think so? The triple P concept, which cannot happen in atomic energy and atomic energy and defense is also taking a huge toll. The triple P is coming. See, when you encourage private industry, what is the meaning of that? Public-private partnership is coming there. And here they are saying this is actually to take up what? The design and development of all the military platforms and equipment. But still, this has to be really, scrutinized, because national security, national threat is not a joke, where private can change any time. Don't believe the private just like that, because you and me, even if we are not, people who will do things just for the sake of doing it. We are not, we may do service, but then private's most important objective is profit motive. So there can be some point of time where it can even cause an issue to the national security also. So though the announcement is done like this, we got to really have a look into it detailing. So under the criticisms, you can actually take up this point also. So when we have the discussion after the end of the class, you can take this point. Clear? What about finance, guys? Yeah, this is with regard to the capital gain surcharge and all. They said they will actually keep at 15%. Then the emergency credit line guarantee scheme, which is exclusively put forward. That is all the money which should be available for the small and medium business now. That will actually be extended till the next year, March 2023, to basically help people to come up in the MSME sector to carry forward activities and all. These are all good things, no doubt in that. Yes, Vishnu, it's good now. See, privatization of defense is good or bad? You yourself think now, Vishnu. Do you really think that when you privatize defense, come on, this is national security ka question. What if they are selfish enough, or what if they have some other hidden motive also? And what if they leak information or something? Come on, that cannot be the case. See, more technology development in private is there. What the government can do is they can buy it from the private and they can use it. Why are they giving it to the private exclusively? That is not the way. That cannot be the way unless and until the issue of the national security or threat is being, solved out. Keeping that sensitive factor in mind, you cannot just go like that. You got the point. So a couple of things like that also has to be noted. For the sake of saying, we'll say. But when you deeply analyze, the pros, the cons and other perspective do pop up. You understand? Now, with regard to the finance perspective, the announcement is, if you see, public issue of life insurance corporation, again, they said even that will be expected shortly. And also with regard to few changes which has to happen in the bankruptcy code and all, that will be speeded up because all the disputes and all will be resolved soon. So with regard to finance and all, yeah, that was a decent announcement, no doubt in that. Railways. So as a part of the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti Master Plan, they said that 2,000 kilometers of railway network will be brought in the Kavach technology. And they said 400, as I told you, 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains with better energy efficiency and passenger rating capacity will also be developed. That will happen in the next 3 years. So now the bullet trains what we have now, and that is something that is again another important point to be noted. So all these are the high-tech developments that has been promised, or let's say announced by the government in the current budget as well. What about MSMEs, guys? Come on, that is indeed very important. MSME is something to be understood also. So the RAM program, what is RAM? RAM is not the fashion RAM that you walk. This is raising and accelerating MSME performance, called as RAM program. They said that will be rolled out. And for that, 6,000 crore outlay expenditure will be spread over 5 years for MSME development. A very good initiative. And making sure that all these people who want to start up an enterprise or an industry or factory and MSME, the emergency credit line guarantee scheme will also be given to them, where they will need additional amount of credit to over 1.3 crore will be extended till March 2023. So all these kind of things are good things to encourage people, no doubt in that. But how are we implementing is more important, right? So now, having understood all this, now you should be able to criticize as well these particular points, guys. Let me quickly take you another, top policy highlights. We have discussed about budget highlights, analysis. We saw the economic indicators, what the top economic indicators, the progress, growth, and the analysis of that. Then we saw the significant announcements in some of the different sectors and how far that is going to work effectively and all. Now, with regard to policy, there have been some, proposals, or let's say some highlights which the government has brought in. So the Union Budget 2022-23 top policy highlights. Point number 1 is multi-modal connectivity. So now the budget was very particular in saying that infrastructure development is very, very important. And now under that, multi-modal connectivity has to be enhanced or increased. How can you do that? You can do that by expanding roads, railways, airways and all. So now one particular point is they have actually enhance or increase such kind of multi-modal connectivity through the expansion of roadways. I repeat, through the expansion of roadways, and that too by 25,000 kilometers. And with regard to rail network, they said let's include 2,000 kilometers of rail network under indigenous technology. What is the technology called as? Kavach technology. Under this comes your, again, the one nation, one product, one station, one station, one train car product. Take care, which I discussed with you. And also to develop 8 ropeway projects and 100 cargo terminals. So under the policy highlights, multi-modal connectivity was highly pushed in the current budget. And now the International Arbitration Center, that is basically in the GIFT city of Gujarat. They want to make sure that foreign universities are permitted to operate to increase what the exposure of our country, India. And with regard to insolvency and bankruptcy code, amendments will be made. Why? Because see, when there is an issue of dispute, you have to solve it. So now to increase the resolution process to solve the dispute, including cross-border insolvency, few changes in the insolvency and bankruptcy code, IBC, has to be done. Only then you can carry forward the activity properly. You understand? At the same time, they want to make sure that to establish a center to reduce the process of voluntary winding up of companies in the last 6 months. 1 second, guys. Is it very clear? Yes, Deepesh, what is it? Is it possible to have PDF of these classes? Of course, that I'll put in the Telegram. Don't worry. Do not worry at all. Do not worry. I'll do that. Now, the next important point to be understood under the top policy highlights of the budget is with regard to digital rupee. So I have just given a glimpse to you people with regard to the launching of digital rupee by RBI in the year 2020-23. Now, how can this be done? Now comes your cryptocurrency. Now comes the blockchain technology, under which cryptocurrency, under which bitcoins and stuff like that come. So now they said this launch of digital rupee by the central bank of a country, India, that is RBI, under the monetary policy perspective, they will use blockchain technology and other technologies for the year of financial year 2022-23. And now this has been kind of legalized. Okay. Now here you can criticize. Now once the government said in the month of November 2021, what did they say? They say that we will ban. October, November, they said we are going to ban the private cryptocurrency and RBI has to have a huge look into it. And they should allow only so and so cryptocurrencies to be brought in. Not everyone can do it. All the private cryptocurrency has to be banned because it is illegal and stuff like that. But what are they saying in the current budget? They are even embracing private to come in. So what they said then and what they are saying now is something contradicting. Don't you think so? So this has to be analyzed. So thus if you see, even the scheduled commercial banks, they have to set up 75 digital or online banking units in order to make this digital rupee operationalized. And thus, we have to extend what? They have to extend the core banking system to even the post offices. So these are the other important policy highlights of what? The union budget. Now comes the taxation perspective. The tax on virtual or online digital assets. They said they'll be taxed at the rate of 30%. It is too high. While digital gifting will also be charged. Can you believe this, guys? Digital assets you're taxing. And now you see digital gifting is also taxed. They'll be charged at, per the same rate on the receiver's end. Whatever the receiver is getting, based on that, they'll be charged. So now even tax is not going to leave people hereafter on the digital perspective also. That is also another important point to be understood. And next policy highlight is there'll be a committee to govern different process. See, we have different committees put forward, but now recently with regard to right to speech, right to freedom of expression, there are a lot of issues popping up now. Keeping all these things in mind, the government in the current budget, they said that a committee, or let's say a task force, will be set up. Why? For governing different processes, like for urban planning, for augmenting the animation, for visual effects, for gaming also. You can connect your PUBG and stuffs like that. For comic sector, why comic sector? Because they don't want the government to be put down. Very smart. And also we're reviewing the regulatory framework governing venture capital and also private equity investments, because that is again in lieu of crowding out effect. So various committees will also be put forward is what they said in the current budget. Clear? Now, another important policy highlights was in the context of what? It was in the context of 5G spectrum. Now, don't you think so? This 5G spectrum can be done only in the context of PPP model, public-private partnership model? Yes, the same thing, whatever I told you. That is again, once again told you, because this all comes under the policy highlights. Okay. Now, the next important thing is data centers. So how do you think, guys, data centers could be an active part of it? If you see the infrastructure status according to data centers and energy storage, that will be done. Why? Because then only it will facilitate what? The credit availability as well. So that is also another important policy highlights which they said actually. Now, the next is with regard to green bonds. So now in budget, the government said that, see, let us literally issue what? Issue sovereign green bonds. What are sovereign green bonds? What are sovereign green bonds, guys? Do you think it is logical to have it? You should be knowing what are green bonds. Sovereign gold bond scheme, that is different. Sovereign gold bond is different from sovereign green bond. Don't get confused. Yes? So don't confuse sovereign gold bond. Sovereign gold bond is to reduce the difference of physical gold. They'll kind of have another version. Sovereign green bond is nothing but green bonds. Basically, green bonds are debt instruments. Okay? The money collected by selling these bonds are invested in projects which will have a positive impact on the environment. So basically, since 2007, you have something called as green bonds, which are debt instruments, okay, which is in the context of environment, guys. So now sovereign green bonds have also to be, promoted. Why? Because that will reduce the carbon intensity. And now reducing carbon intensity or carbon emission is very, very important. You know why? For the fact that, to achieve net zero carbon emissions by the year 2070 is also very, very important. Though the number of years is a little high also, it's not that easy to achieve it to that ratio. So now these kind of actions, or let's say activities, is actually contributing to a greater extent. Clear? All these are in lieu of the environmental perspective, the climate change, and also, to make sure that we are protecting and safeguarding our environment. Next is battery swapping policy. What is battery swapping policy, guys? What is battery swapping? You'll swap the battery. What battery you'll swap? Your phone wala battery? What is battery swapping? These are all new things that you need to understand in UPSC. See, battery swap is what battery swapping policy. Battery swap is nothing but it's a technique which consists of swapping of, let's say, a discharged electric car battery with one that is already charged. Okay, swapping it like that. So this would replace recharging, thus eliminating long-term refueling times and all. Clear? And that is one of the major limitations also to the zero emission vehicles. There are a lot of points to be added. This is in the context of the electrical vehicles and also the context of fuel, because currently the fuel price is what? very high. 1 liter is more than 100 rupees. Quite hitting hard on the people. So they say in the coming years, all these fuel vehicles will be replaced with electronics and let's say the greenery or environment eco-friendly ones. That's what, such kind of policies or such kind of initiative is telling us. Clear? Yes, very good, Vishnu. It is electrical vehicle perspective only. Next is, as I told you, the so-called credit line guarantee scheme for all the MSMEs and all. Yes, Tetish, I've taught you this before. Even I have done an advertisement also. I've told you that before as well, right? That is for the government of Tamil Nadu I did. Like, நம்ம எல்லாரும் இனிமே எலெக்ஷன் கால்ல போறோம். That was a dialogue I said, I mean, it was there, it's that in Insta as well. You can just go through. Yeah, that's something which is in the context of electric vehicles. Anyways. Now, another important policy highlight is in the context of Special Economic Zone Act. How do you think this is, logical enough? Now, the Special Economic Zone Act, okay, it is said that it is to be replaced with a new legislation, guys. They said hereafter we will not be having the Special Economic Zone Act because that is not giving results as per what we think. That's what the government said. So in the current budget, they said for a better policy perspective or actions, let us actually replace it. And they said they will replace it with new legislations. And in that new legislations, they'll be able to, they'll be able to enable the state's partnership in the development of enterprises and service hubs. So they'll be able to make a maximum or let's say optimum utilization of all the available infrastructure. Thereby, the competitiveness of export perspective is also enhanced or increased. Clear? And PLI scheme, I have been telling you another policy highlights because that is actually creating 60 lakh new employment opportunities to more than so and so people out there. So during the next 5 years, the issue of unemployment can be greatly reduced, and that is why the PLI scheme policy has been highly celebrated in the current budget also. Clear? And also with regard to renewable sources of energy, with regard to other perspectives, also they are kind of noting it down. With regard to women, empowerment women is also another policy. The budget focused and schemes like, again, Mission Shakti, Mission Vatsalya, all these things have been brought in. And they said around 60,000 crore will be allocated under Har Ghar Nal Se Jal scheme. Because now when we are doing this, every Har Ghar Nal Se Jal means every home will have the availability to water connections. Okay. And they say that will cover more than 3.8 crore households in the current year of 2010 to 20. That is actually a good scheme, no doubt in that. Clear? And again, for economic transformation, for seamless multi-modal connectivity, loss efficiency, we need the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti National Master Plan because they are encompassing the 7 engines like roads, railways, airport, the ports, the mass transport, waterways, and also logistics. These days, logistics is actually capturing a great market out there. So Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti will do the needful. And they said that in the year 2023, they'll make sure that there is a better movement of people and goods to facilitate that the national highway network will also be expanded by 25,000 kilometers. Clear? Now, get ready for criticizing the so-called taxation policy of the government because this is a place which is, or this is a kind of point which has had a huge implication on what exactly the people are facing today because there has been no changes in the context of income taxes, which is really having a huge toll on what the earnings of a person is. So let's quickly have a look into the top tax highlights of Union Budget 22-23. Now, so far we discussed about the indicators, highlights and stuffs like that. But tax is something which we the citizens have to pay. So now let's quickly have a look into what exactly the government is looking forward or what exactly the government is actually focusing with regard to the taxation perspective. All ready? So before that, you tell me what is your notion or your point of view with regard to the tax highlights or the taxation perspective. Do you really agree to what the government is saying? You really got to think. It's not a joke. Yes? Deepesh is saying no, not at all. Yeah, it's not. It's actually having a huge toll. That's why it said the middle class people, whatever they earn, the government is running away with that. There was a caricature on that. Whatever you earn, it is going into the khazana of the government just like that. So what is left out for the people? That was a big question mark and a caricature that was rolling out when the budget was released or announced. Hannah. So let's quickly have a look into the top tax highlights of the Union Budget 2022-23, and let's see when after analyzing how far it is hitting hard on the common man as a whole. The pros and cons. So there were multiple tax proposals that were put forward. You can just see. Now, let's quickly have a look into what it is all about. Check in. Point number one, with regard to income tax, what did you think? Whether this income tax had any sort of benefits? Income tax comes under the purview of what? The direct tax. We all know that, right? It comes under the purview of direct tax. Now, income tax is something that is paid at the source by the individual who is a salaried person. Now, we expected a reduction in that, but if you see, there was no change to the personal income tax, or let's say even the corporate tax also. Now, this is something which actually took a huge toll on the common people. And now, with regard to income tax return policy, do you think there was a change again? If you see, there was a revised income tax return policy, and in that, if you see, the taxpayers currently, you and me, if you are a taxpayer, we have a 2-year window to correct whatever errors we have, and then we can file a revised income tax return for the relevant assessment year. This is basically to reduce the corruption, the fraudery, and giving a chance to the people to make sure that they are not escaping or let's say evading of paying of taxes, called as tax evasion. What is tax evasion? Illegal way of avoiding paying of tax. What is tax avoidance? That is legal way of reducing the tax amount and doing it. Clear? Yes, Deepesh, what is it? I personally feel that almost even after combination of different taxes, GST, the tax regime hit it hardest, and they're not doing anything for this. Just increasing of that consistently, that's what I feel. Acha, you feel in that way. Okay, maybe whatever you feel and whatever you see, discuss, or whatever you are seeing in the discussion that is happening in the class, you'll be able to arrive at a better conclusion. See, now tax is something, guys, which is the only single source of revenue for the government. The main source of revenue, let me tell you that. With that revenue only, they will be able to, take forward all the other expenditure activities also. So this is a place where they'll catch more tightly, saying that the future or the quantum leap of growth is in the taxation perspective, because that will fetch revenue for the government, and then through that they can carry forward the expenditure activity and all. So that is why they always have a huge toll here as well. So now with regard to income tax and revised income tax policy, these are the updates. And what about the persons with disability, guys? It is said that there will be a tax relief to people with disability. So now let's say, for example, a person with disability is earning 2 to 3 lakhs. Still, they need to have a tax relief. So many people even questioned it. So some people say that, okay, let me also have a disability, so at least I'll get a tax relief. That was actually another criticism that was rolled out and put out. Okay. And now with regard to ATI, AMT, that is alternative minimum tax, which has been put forward in the corporates who show zero profit zero profit, or let's say zero income to escape from tax. Even that was reduced. They were reducing the alternative minimum tax and surcharge for the cooperative as well. Clear? The next important thing is tax holiday. What is tax holiday? Basically, to encourage all the enterprises, the big multinational companies or corporates to put up an industry or start an industry in the remote or the rural areas. A tax holiday of 20 years will be given to these people, to these corporates with the government. So then that particular area will improve the infrastructure, the other skill development of the people in that area. So slowly are transforming this. So now with regard to tax holiday, another important proposal, let's say, highlight of the budget was tax holiday extended for the startups incorporated up to 31st March 2023. That is actually encouraging a lot of people to start up even in the remote and the rural area as well. And not only for them, even for the new manufacturing companies commencing operations by 31st March 2024, the tax holiday is extended. So that is something that is benefiting all the enterprise and startup to actually carry forward whatever they are doing. Don't you think so? Now, what about surcharges? Cess is what? Tax on tax. Hai na? Let's say, for example, education says a tax which is collected for one particular purpose, and the government will make sure that whatever revenue the government is getting, they'll be utilizing it only for that particular purpose. Even if it is over and above the average what they have to receive also, they will not take that money for, let's say, education says money for health perspective, or let's say any other perspective. So next year, they'll carry forward or utilize that amount for the same educational perspective. So now with regard to the surcharge or cess, they said that retrospective amendment, taxing the past. Retro tax is taxing of the past, right? So retrospective amendment to deny the reduction or reduction of any such cess paid on income and profit is another important highlight with regard to the tax perspective. Clear? Now, I told you that there will be a taxation of the virtual digital assets, and also there will be a tax on the gifting perspective also at the rate of 30%, right? So now that is something where they felt that even the deemed gift tax provisions which is introduced will benefit the government to get a better income. But then do you think the people who are utilizing that service, or let's say carrying forward with that, will be benefited? That has to be really thought about. Clear? Now, with regard to International Financial Service Center, another important point is that there has been few income tax exemption expanded to inter alia, let's say, specific income of all the NRIs from lease of a ship to IFSC units. And even if you see the income of non-resident from the transfer of specified derivative investment is also being taxed. So why? Why such kind of thing is another important question that you have to, really think upon. And with regard to the concessional tax regime, you know what happened in the tax? They said, let us withdraw that. The concessional tax regime on all the dividends which are from the foreign perspective, let us withdraw it from the year 2022 to make it more convenient, to allow more, flow of funds into the country. That is also another important thing that they did. Next, with regard to AMI, they said that they will reduce it from 18.5% to 15%, guys. Previously, alternative minimum tax was paid at the rate of 18%. That is, all the companies who showed zero profit to escape paying taxes were brought under the purview of alternative minimum tax. Now they said we'll make it to 15%, so company can pay it. So it's kind of relaxation to all the corporate companies, I can tell you, provided they pay it. That is also there. And thus, here we go with regard to a look into the direct tax perspective, as I was saying. So now a lot of proposals relating to taxes and duties in order to simplify the complex taxation system was brought in by the government, and even in the budget of 2000, 20 to 23 also it was put forward. They said in the income tax perspective, there will be no change at all. And thus, even the current budget, no changes have been proposed to income tax slabs and the tax rate of individual taxpayers. Now, don't you think so? It is hitting hardly on all the people who are liable, or let's say eligible to pay the income tax? Yes. Because direct tax is something that you, the person organization pays at the source itself. Income tax, real property tax, personal property tax, tax on asset, etc., etc. You feel the pinch of paying the tax, no doubt in that. Whereas in the context of indirect tax, you never feel the pinch of paying because they are hidden in the price of the commodity. It's called as the most popular kind of tax and also the hidden tax, no doubt in that. And GST, goods and service tax, is one such example to be quoted. Clear? Now, though I told you that there has been no changes in the income tax slabs, or let's say for the individual taxpayers, another important point to be noted is that there have been some relief that has been given to the personal tax also, guys. That is, it is said that the number of years in which a person can file a tax, the taxpayers can file the updated return within 2 years. The time is extended. And if you see the taxation on income from transfer of all the online or digital assets, it is at 30%. And to the people with disability, they said there will be relief to such kind of people with regard to the taxation what they need to pay. And even for that, there will be a tax exemption for COVID related expenditure reimbursed by employer, and also NPS reduction of up to 14% for all the state government employees. So now, though the income tax slabs, or let's say rates have not been changed, also some exemptions, or let's say some considerations have been put forward by the government as well with regard to personal taxes. Clear? Now the question is, what is there for individuals, you and me? The question is, what is there for you and me? Updated return. That's something to be understood. See, this is why you think it is not. It is because the government is so concerned about the people. That is why they did this. It is for them to have a proper record of what the earnings of a person is, and it's kind of warning or a hint given to the people that within 2 years you better get your tax filed or the returns filed, otherwise you will be in trouble. It's an indirect warning given by the government, let me tell you that. So now, with regard to the extension of 2 years for the updated return, I can tell you that the government proposed this. Why? Because they want to provide a one-time window to correct all the errors and omissions in the income tax returns ITR filed. So now you and me, within 2 years of the assessment year, we can file the updated returns. Okay. So we feel that we are getting more here and we are relaxed. But government is even more smarter. To tax you more, they are doing this. So get ready for more taxation. Now, What is the idea behind, tax relief, guys, given to the persons with disability? Do you think that is a good move? That is something to be appreciated or something to be, really look forward? Why do you think that kind of move is brought in? Of course, it will benefit to some extent to such kind of persons with disability only, but somewhere or the other, the point of discrimination is also been popped up. Though you give a personal tax relief to person with disability also, somewhere or the other, the question of discrimination has to be answered by the government as well, right? Now, the next is the parity between the, employees of state and central government. If you see the tax reduction limit, it increased from 10 to 14% in employees' contribution. To what all? To the NPS, National Pension System, which is account of state government employees, because they are just bringing them at par with all the central government employees now. So now connect this to the topic that is informal sector, or let's say formalization of informal sector is also the name of the hour. And now here it's about the formal sector people. So now to enhance or improve the social security benefits, only this kind of parity between the employees of central and state government has been done, where they are actually having a tax reduction limit, but actually they've increased it, guys, from 10 to 14. Clear? That is also another important point to be understood. But that time also, you need to understand something. Do you really think that the government is actually focusing on the informal sector people? Couple of days before for the 6 a.m. class, you remember we had a discussion based on formalization of informal sector, which is indeed the need of the hour. In that, I told you that informal sector people has to be given more importance for enhancing what? Social security benefits. But where is that? Or what is happening in that context? Hannah, all these things are also being kind of, to be looked upon. Here they're again talking about the formal sector employees. Did they really talk about the informal sector employees? Because state and central government employees are what? They are in the organized or the formal sector. So they are focusing on enhancing the social security benefits of them. What about the informal people? That is to be understood. And now, having said that, the next important point with regard to taxation, what is there for corporate business and cooperatives with regard to the taxation policy, guys? I can tell you that there has been a reduction of the alternative minimum tax rate from 18.5% to 15% for all the cooperatives and companies. And that is a huge relief for the people to at least get their taxes filed and make sure that they're not doing much of collateral. So that is something which, the government felt. Provided these corporates, or let's say these corporate business, they are not doing tax evasions by illegal means. Clear? And now when you do this, there are two important things, guys. When you're reducing the, alternative minimum tax from 18.5 to 15%, automatically it is helping increasing the income of the cooperative societies. Nah? And at the same time, they're able to, have a better, living standard as well, because income is increasing. You got the point. Be it the corporate business and also the cooperatives as well. Both are different things, not the same thing. Clear? Now, with regard to taxation period, I told you tax holiday is there. Don't you think so? It is an incentive for all the startup as well. Now it is said that earlier, if it was like all the eligible startup which is established before March 2022, they'll be given some sort of tax incentive like tax holidays for 3 consecutive years out of 10 years from incorporation. Now, taking into consideration the COVID-19 pandemic and all, they said that the government will extend the period of incorporation for all the eligible startup by 1 more year. It is not 3 years, again by 1 more year, which means that till 2023 March, they can go ahead with it with all the incentive. So now they are getting tax incentives, tax holidays, where they'll be able to make sure that they're starting up with the enterprises, people are having employment opportunities, and people are able to contribute in a better way. So these are all good things, no doubt in that. With regard to the startup and all, yeah, the incentive given by the government and taxation is a very good thing. That is what we need. But remember, I told you with regard to virtual digital asset, there is even a scheme for taxation, guys, for such kind of online or virtual digital asset. And at the rate of 30% only, they'll be taxed. Any income from transfer of any virtual will be at rate of 30%. And now, do you think it is actually a beneficial one? In one side, if you see how it is. But then another side, if you see, the loss from transfer of such kind of virtual digital assets, come on, they cannot be set off against any other income. And now even the gift that we do, okay, the gift of virtual digital assets, that is also be taxed in par with whatever the receiver is receiving at their end. So all these kind of things makes you think, is it something that is really viable, or something to be revised? Now, do you really think, guys, in the current budget, have the government taken any sort of steps to make taxation quite simpler? Now, point number one is, yeah, of course, they have taken few steps. We can never say that the government has not taken any step. Point number one is litigation management. You know, litigation management is, for example, there are few cases, okay, where the question of law is identical to one pending in the High Court or let's say Supreme Court. And the filing of appeal by the department, they shall defer till such question of law is decided by the court. Now, in such kind of litigation issues, what they will do, in order to help in a greater way in reducing such kind of repeated legislation between taxpayers and departments, yes, we need to make sure that the taxation system is simplified or simpler. So you and me as a common man also will be able to carry forward the activity in a much better way. Clear? And now, as I told you, tax evasion, illegal way of avoiding tax payments is the highest. So now another important way in which you can make taxation more simpler and to make it more, make the taxpayers feel more liable to pay, that is deterrence against tax evasion. That is, no set of any laws should be allowed against any sort of killatharam or let's say undisclosed income which has been deducted during search and survey operations, guys. That is something to be kept in mind when they are talking about what? The tax evasion perspective. And again, with regard to the gift city and IFSC, we know a load of tax incentive is given to International Financial Service Center, because that is again to encourage more of foreign funding as well. That is why they keep doing that. Now, the next important question is, do you think the government has done something great for tax rationalization? If so, what is that thing that the government has done for tax rationalization? Point number one, they made sure that they are rationalizing the TDS, tax deducted at the source provisions. That is, tax reduction provided to the person now giving benefits if supposing the value is increased or aggravated to such benefits, it exceeds rupees 20,000 financially, then in that case they'll rationalize the TDS provisions as well. So that is one thing the government has done, guys, for tax. What? For tax rationalization. And surcharge also, come on, they've done a lot of rationalization because that is actually enabling the startup community and all not to have a great boost. So these are all positive things, no doubt in that. You can just go through. Now, moving on to the indirect perspective, that is your GST perspective. What do you think could be the announcements made in the budget with regard to indirect taxes? Do you think it's going to benefit the people? Now, point number one over here is the record GST collections. I can tell you that when you take the data, the GST collections now, they touched a record of 1.4 lakh crore in the month of Jan 2022, despite the so-called coronavirus pandemic on the rapid economic recovery, which means GST is having a record wala collection. And now this is actually showcasing what this GST record collection, they say that it is showcasing the spirit of cooperative federalism and fulfilling the dream of India as one market, one tax. What a nonsense is that? Come on, highly to be questioned. Federalism, cooperative federalism. So you remember the challenges to a federal India we discussed, that is one thing. And second thing is GST compensation cess. The state and the central government is having a fight with regard to the notion that the GST revenue that they are getting is not sufficient. But as for the Jan 2020 data, they say that the record collection was there for GST, no doubt in that. So do you think it is really fulfilling the dream of a country, India, as one market, one tax? All these have to be questioned. But in the budget, they say, come on, that is the case. I don't know why they actually showed such kind of projected, figures out there. It's actually something that is showing, okay, we are TK, we're all fine. But that's not the way. The reality is very well evident to you, me, and a common citizen. Then why is such kind of, loopholes been brought in? So who is going to believe it? That is the next important point to be understood. But as for the recordical data, they say, yes, it touched 1.4 lakh crore. That is there. See, this is what the budget has said, guys. You have to tell me whether it is right or wrong. That is something to be understood. Hannah. Next is special economic zones. Yeah, that is where, they say all these special economic zones, the interior parts and all, remote parts and all, they'll be fully IT, driven. And the functions on custom national portal and all will be done with a huge focus on higher facilitations and all. That is to promote these zones, guys. With regard to custom reform and duty rate changes, they said domestic capacity creation will be done. They'll be enhancing ease of doing business for more and more startup to come. They'll make sure that the MSME has been boosted up, and all the policy initiatives like production incentive and all will be boosted up. So indirect taxes and all, will be benefiting the manufacturers and the customers by not putting them at a higher price of paying off for the product which consists of GST and all. So multiple benefits like that. Okay, this kind of policies or let's say points can be accepted, but the previous one, that is record fee collection, come on, absolutely a bullshit point to be really understood. Nobody will ever even believe that there's a record GST collection. That is none of the state governments will agree. That is why on this particular point there was a lot of criticism that was put forward. Clear? Yes, Deepesh, क्या है? There's no transparency. We can't believe that हम नहीं मानते. Proof दिखाओ. अच्छा, you go ask the government proof. Now 2 to 3 heads you'll get it. See, that's what I said. For the sake of writing, you can jot down or write anything. But when you start analyzing with the background data or let's say the other perspective, it makes you think whether it is right or wrong. That is what is happening here as well. Clear? Is it clear, guys? Now, with regard to indirect taxes, now if you see, lot of duty exemptions and has been given to capital goods. If you see, there was something called as National Capital Goods Policy 2016, and the aim was nothing but they want to double the production of all the heavy or the capital goods by the year 2025. You have another 3 more years, and now through this, what happened? It is actually creating more employment opportunities, and also the economic activity will increase. But though that is the case, also lot of duty exemptions were given for let's say 3 decades, 30 years in some cases, like for sectors like power, fertilizer, textiles, leather, footwear, food processing, fertilizers, they were doing it. But today, if you see in the context of GST, especially in the context of footwear and all, and textiles, don't you think so? It has been increasing. They did it before, but today what are they doing? They are kind of reversing it. And now these exemptions, now again, it is said that has hindered the growth of domestic capital goods sector, due to which they said they're not even going to do it hereafter. And thus the budget provided for applying a moderate or a decent tariff of 7.5%, which will be conducive to the growth of the domestic sector and thereby the biggest policy that is made in India. Clear? Now, this is very interesting, guys. There are some sector-specific proposals given by the government under the, indirect tax regime GST. Now, it is said that the custom duty rates, whatever has been put in the context of electronics, it will be balanced. Why? Because they'll be able to provide a graded rate structure because they want to facilitate domestic manufacturing of wearable device electronic smart meters. Now, there are some things that have been, or let's say that has been costing too high in the current budget. Let me quickly tell you that it's very interesting. Take care. Now, this is something which is to be understood. Okay. If you see budget 2022, some items are very costlier, some items are very cheaper. So costlier versus cheaper items, I'm going to tell you, this is very practical thing. If you see clothes, mobile phone chargers, which comes electronics perspective, then gemstones and diamonds, your frozen mussels, your frozen squid, then your acidic your cocoa beans to make chocolate, then the acetic acid, your methyl alcohol, steel scrap, whatever chemicals you need for petroleum products, then the camera lens of all your mobile phones and all the cellular mobile phones, they are made damn cheaper. They are damn cheaper. The indirect tax regime of that is very cheap, the GST one. But you know what are the things that they made costlier? Here we go, the smart meters. You see, the government is very smart. They said that the kind of sector-specific proposals they're putting forward is actually to, facilitate domestic manufacturing of wearable devices, electronic smart meters. But in reality, smart meters have become more costlier. Solar cells have become more costly, which is in the lieu of energy transition, because solar energy is very important, but now we are making it more costlier. So do you think it will be inclusive to everyone? No. Then solar modules, your umbrella, then few parts of electronic toys and all, na? Then imitation jewelry, not gold and silver, the imitation wala covering jewelry you have, na? That one. X-ray machines, even the headphones what you use, the earphones what you use, and also single or multiple loudspeakers, they become very costly. You see, what they are supposed to make it costlier, jewelry and gold and diamond has become less, they are saying, compared to the imitations. Now, imitations have made it costlier compared to this. What logic does it make? It really makes you think 2x or 3x time faster. What is happening to our government, Hannah? Really, guys, this is what they're doing. Why I'm telling you this is, the electronic smart meters, we may feel that this is kind of very, a good proposals with regard to GST, indirect tax regime and all, but believe me, that is quite costly. They have announced a lot of new things like, phased manufacturing program for producing some wrist wearable device, hearable device, and sub kuch like that. But all these electronic smart meters and all, the price has popped up. It has made them very costlier. Clear? You see, gems and jewelry, that is also costlier. But they say it is cheap. Sorry, gems and jewelry has been cheap. Imitation jewelry has been costlier. If you see, there has been a custom duty on cut and polished diamonds to 5%. But what about imitations? That is increased. So what logic does it make? And now with regard to boosting up the MSME and the export sector, what did they do? A lot of incentives were given, guys. That is, a lot of exemptions are provided to many items coming under the so-called MSME and export. So then you will be able to rationalize, such kind of sectors where you'll be able to encourage MSME and also increase more of export, because that will give you more of what revenue in the context of foreign exchange when you're exporting it. And also MSME is coming under the Startup India program, or let's say entrepreneurship perspective, where domestic manufacturing is increasing. And again, that is in lieu with the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, the 20 lakh crore economic stimulus package, right? And now we know that the fuel prices are quite popping up. And now there was a tariff to even encourage blending of fuel. So that is basically unblended fuel. Now it will attract all additional differential excess duty of rupees 2 per litre. That was what they said from October 2022. That will be done. So so when that is done, automatically the encouragement to blend the fuel will increase. So in order to increase that, you see what the government is doing. They are hitting hard on the people here when you are actually increasing the fuel price. Till that point of time, we are suffering, the common man, by ending up paying higher prices. But then they say when you do like this, automatically it's encouraging blending of fuel. That is, they're putting one and they're trying to cash another. But meantime, who is suffering? We, the public. Don't you think so? Yes. So this is what you should know with regard to Union Budget highlights of 2022-23. Now, having understood this, there are a few more important things which I really want to tell you guys. Let me tell you something. Do you think the budget of 2022-23 is actually a boost for various sectors? Of course, it is a boost for so many sectors. No doubt in that. It is actually contributing greatly to many sectors. But then, the middle class taxpayers, they are left in lurch again. LURCH, the lurch. Do you really agree to that? They are left in the lurch. Why? Why it is happening? So now, do we agree to the fact that this budget is big on hopes? Because see, when you talk about boost of various sectors, why are the production linked incentive scheme? Why are the MSME benefits? Why are the incentives, that, this, etc.? Charlotte is big on hope, but they are short of ideas. Why? Why they are short of ideas? You tell me. Because middle class people are directly hit badly. They're directly hit badly, na? Don't you think so? Yes or no? Yes? Yes, Vishnu. Budget more confusing on long-term gains. Yeah, see, I will never say it is more confusing. Rather, I will say that it is big on hopes. See, there is no confusion. They are giving you all the data, they are giving you all the structures, crystal clear manner. Where can you see such kind of confusions? The hopes are too bigger. So let me quickly brief out to you guys. And even you can put across your points, no doubt in that. So now the whole logic, or let's say the whole point over here is, with regard to the question that I've asked you, is the budget big on hopes and short on ideas? Point number one, if you see, the budget is aiming to focus on what, guys? The current budget, a summary of that I can tell you is like, after listening to all these various perspectives, what I've discussed with you guys, it is aiming to focus on infrastructure and connectivity. That is true. But on the other hand, what is happening? They are lacking growth invigorating proposals. They are showing growth, but where is the growth invigorating proposal? They are lacking short of ideas on that. So now, this is the fourth successive budget put forward by Nirmala Sitharam, who is a finance minister. Now, while commonsensical in approach, it's kind of very commonsensical in approach, guys. It is not exactly building with new ideas. Let me tell you that. Because with the economy still in search of more long-term, or let's say durable momentum, I can tell you, because that is something which can help the economy entrench the so-called COVID-19 recovery from the last fiscal year's record contraction. And don't you think so, guys? When you talk about the boosting of various sectors, somewhere or the other, the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman in her budget, she literally, or let's say clear-cutly, the government has failed. I will never say she because a lot of other people has been a part of it. So now they literally missed an opportunity to address the flagging consumer spending in the wake of erosions in various, real income and saving. Because there has been a combination of tax breaks, especially for the middle class people, and the cash handouts for the poor people. So what about the vulnerable people out there? The middle class people out there. Do you want the upper middle class to come in lower middle class and the middle class to go to lower and lower to go to poverty? That is what they are doing now. You understand? So this is something to be understood. Now they say that private investment. When private investment seem to require that support and help to pump in more money or income as advanced in the economy, you cannot think of privatizing or let's say handing over the sector called defense to private sector just like that. What about national security perspective there? All these things have to be brought in. And now, another important point, that is Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti program, which is a transformative approach for the economic growth and sustainable development. That was also brought in this budget speech of Nirmala Sitharaman. They're focusing on all the 7 engines of roads, rails, port, etc., etc. Very good. But then, the question is, will they be able to, spend exactly as what they targeted or what they said? Will the outlay of expenditure be given to that? Is the next question. So I can tell you that this budget is listing a master plan for expressway, which will be formulated in the year 2022-23, guys, under the various schemes. You understand? Is it clear? Yes. And now we spoke about the expenditure, but don't you think so? For the sake of revenue, you cannot hit harder on the people via, taxation perspective. So now I can tell you that the so-called in the coming days ahead, given the current budget's lack of growth invigorating proposals, it is really going to hit harder because we are falling short of ideas and the hopes are quite big for us. We are saying we'll do that, we'll do this. Okay, you're doing it. It is too huge. It is too huge to really, put it under one single umbrella to attain an immediate result. So the long-term proposals, and again, if you see, as I told you, Amarkal, that is Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the Amarkal, the blueprint for the 25-year-long plan for the growth and development of a country, India. All these things is quite long. And this long-term agenda is again another 25 years we have to wait, more than 2 decades. So all these things have been brought in the current budget. So this is the kind of viewpoint that I have with regard to the union budget. It has to be reconsidered, guys. Now you tell me, taking into consideration the positives, the negatives, and the various dimensions, not only sector-wise, we even saw the taxation perspective, we even saw the other perspective. So don't you think so? It is big on hopes and short of ideas, and the kind of big on hopes, they can kind of modify it. And short of ideas is why, when you say something, you need to understand that the previous factors, whatever has been said by the government, has to be fulfilled. Without that, you keep doing it, doesn't make a sense at all. You got the point. So this is something to be understood. So this is my notion, or let's say my concept, guys, or my way of analyzing the so-called budget. But it do have a lot of benefits, pros, and advantages also. At the same time, the disadvantage is not less as well. It has to be looked upon 2 to 3 times to make a very good rational understanding of what exactly the country is facing or going through. So this is the so-called analysis of your Union Budget 2022-23. Clear? I hope you really enjoyed this session. So thank you so much, young officers. And this is the analysis of my budget from my perspective, my version, guys, taking into consideration various dimensions and perspectives. So I'll see you all. I'll see you all tomorrow at 6 a.m. for the regular current topics in news live series with an interesting topic. So before that, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and most importantly, once the live streaming is done, do circulate it among your friends, and after that put your valuable feedbacks or comments compulsory with regard to the union budget perspective in the comment box. That is very, very important. Exclusive viewpoints, there is nothing wrong in that. Having understood budget in a totally diplomatic perspective, we are able to figure out so many things of what is really the current budget all about. Don't you think so? Yes. Any doubt, any queries, anything that you want to say? Did you all really enjoy the class? This way of analysis and highlights? Yes, Danya. Is there any way to get the session PPT as PDF, ma'am? I'll give you, don't worry. I'll make it into PDF and I'll give you. Do not worry. Yes, Deepesh, I did not get to understand what is tax rationality all about. See, rationalization of tax is nothing but it's a process. Okay, to let's say tax rationality, I can tell you that it's a kind of process to restructure or a process where you'll actually increase the efficiency of the system. So in tax rationalization, the meaning of that is they'll restructure the tax policy, increase or decreasing of tax, modifying the existing tax, etc., through which the efficiency of that particular policy can be increased. You understand? So the rates of tax increase with the it should be in a progressive basis. The rich should be taxed more and the poor should be taxed less. That should be the concept. Clear? It's having some sort of righteousness or a correctness in that. That's called as tax rationalization. The government is trying to do that is what they are saying by giving a lot of relief to the disabled pay people, at the same time not having any sort of cut on the income tax slabs, or let's say by having a cut on the alternative minimum tax for the corporates. But then somewhere or the other, it is hitting hard on the middleman also, no doubt in that. Clear? But they have brought in good things also. We can never deny that the good things are not brought by them. Good things are also there. See, everything cannot go in that lieu as well, right? So we need to make sure that we are kind of, rectifying it at the earliest. Simple as that. Is it clear? Any other doubts, queries? Come on, it's time for you to express your viewpoints. I'll give you 5 minutes. You can put across your viewpoints, no doubt in that. Hmm? Yes, that's it. Okay. So thank you so much, my young officer. See you all soon for the next session. So don't forget to put forward your valuable feedbacks, and stay tuned for more such interesting sessions on the same YouTube channel. And we'll be starting off tomorrow is Monday, so 6 a.m. with the regular current topics and news, and 6 p.m. with the UPSC level MCQs on the Unacademy free platform. Clear? So keep sharing this session and don't forget to like and put your valuable feedbacks in the comment box. So bye bye. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Jai Hind.